There are approximately 23 million millionaires living in the United States right now. 23 million. That is roughly 7% of the entire adult population, which means statistically, in any room of 15 people you walk into today, a grocery store, a school pickup line, a neighborhood barbecue, at least one of them has a net worth above $1 million, and you almost certainly cannot tell which one it is. Not because they are hiding something sinister, but because the way genuinely wealthy people actually spend their money is so far removed from what popular culture tells us wealth looks like that most people walk right past it every single day without recognizing it. Thomas Corley spent 5 years studying over 200 millionaires, people with net liquid assets of $3.2 million or more. And what he found about how they allocate their income will permanently change the way you look at your own budget. Here is the problem with how most people think about millionaire spending. They build the picture from the wrong direction. They start with the result, the car, the house, the vacation, and work backwards to assume a lifestyle. But the data runs in exactly the opposite direction. The spending habits came first. The wealth followed. Not as a reward for earning more, as a direct consequence of spending differently on what they were already earning. Corley identified 4 types of millionaires in his research. The corporate climber who grinds up the executive ladder. The virtuoso. The surgeon, the attorney, the specialist whose expertise commands a premium. The dreamer entrepreneur who builds something from passion. And the one that matters most for this conversation, the saver investor. The person for whom it doesn't matter what their job is, how high their income is, or what credentials they hold. These individuals save and invest consistently, live within a specific set of spending boundaries, and over time, sometimes decades, cross the $1 million threshold without ever having had a single extraordinary financial event. This is the most democratic category of millionaire that exists. No genius required. No exceptional income required. No inheritance required. Just a spending architecture built around a set of percentages that most people have never seen laid out clearly. Until now. The first percentage is the one that determines everything else. Saver investor millionaires keep their total expenses at 80% or below their take-home pay. That means before they decide where to live, what to drive, or what to eat, they have already committed 20% of every paycheck to savings and investment. Not what's left over after spending. 20% off the top, automatically, before any other decision gets made. This single behavioral commitment is the architecture that everything else is built around. On a $50,000 annual income, that is $750 a month going directly into wealth building. Consistently, without negotiation, without exception, through good months and bad ones. Consider 2 neighbors, both 32 years old, both earning $65,000 a year. Marcus spends first and saves what remains, which most months is close to nothing. David automates 20% into a Roth IRA and index fund contributions the morning his paycheck lands and builds his life around what's left. At 65, assuming a conservative 8% average annual return, David has approximately $2.4 million. Marcus is still trying to figure out where his money went. The difference was never income. It was sequence. But here's where it gets interesting. The largest single budget category for almost every household is housing, and it is where most people silently destroy their financial future without realizing it. Saver investor millionaires keep housing costs at 25% or below their monthly take-home pay. Not 25% of gross income. Take-home pay. The number that actually lands in your account after taxes. This is a meaningful distinction that most budget frameworks get wrong. For someone bringing home $4,000 a month, that means housing costs, mortgage or rent, utilities, maintenance, insurance, all of it combined, stays at or below $1,000 a month. Now, before that number makes you close the tab, here is what the comments on videos like this one reveal consistently. People immediately say that is impossible in today's market, and in some cities, in some situations, they are right. But Corley's core principle is not about hitting 25% exactly. It is about making housing decisions based on actual need rather than social signaling. The millionaire, in his study, who lived in a modest three-bedroom in a quiet suburb while his colleagues stretched into showcase homes in premium zip codes, was not making a sacrifice. He was making a calculation. Every dollar he didn't spend on housing was a dollar compounding somewhere else. And 20 years of that calculation is worth more than any address ever could be. Meet Sandra, 41 years old, hospital administrator in a mid-sized Midwestern city. When she and her husband bought their first home at 28, they chose a house 30% below what the bank approved them for. Their colleagues thought they were being overly cautious. Their mortgage payment was $900 a month in a neighborhood where everyone else was paying $1,400. That $500 monthly difference went straight into index funds for 13 years. That decision alone, one housing choice made at 28, compounded into over $140,000 by the time she turned 41. One decision, made once, compounding quietly for over a decade. But here's where it gets interesting. Transportation is where the gap between performed wealth and real wealth becomes almost impossible to miss. Saver investor millionaires spend 5% or less of their take-home pay on transportation. Everything included: car payment, insurance, gas, tolls, registration, repairs, maintenance. 5%. On a $4,000 monthly take-home, that is $200, which sounds impossible until you understand the vehicle strategy behind it. These individuals buy used cars in cash, eliminate the monthly payment entirely, maintain them obsessively, and drive them for 10 years or more. The average new car payment in America right now sits at approximately $735 a month. That is before insurance, before gas, before anything else. The person making that payment every month is not just spending $735, they are spending the compounded future value of $735 every single month for the privilege of a new car smell that lasts approximately 3 weeks. Sandra drives a 7-year-old Honda CR-V she bought for cash 4 years ago. Her total monthly transportation cost, including insurance and gas, is under $220. Her neighbor leases a new SUV every 3 years. They earn almost identical salaries. The wealth gap between them grows by approximately $6,000 every single year, just from this one category. Now here is the category the competitor videos mention in one sentence, but the audience always wants more of: food and household spending. Saver investor millionaires keep this at 15% or below take-home pay. But the detail that consistently surprises people is where most of that money quietly disappears: food waste. The average American household throws away between $1,200 and $1,500 worth of food every single year. Not restaurants, not takeout. Groceries bought with good intentions that rot in the refrigerator. That is over $100 a month leaving your household and going directly into a trash bag. The millionaires in Corley's study were not eating worse food. They were simply eating the food they bought. Meal planning, leftover culture, buying to a list rather than browsing. These are not deprivation strategies. They are the invisible spending habits of people who treat every dollar as something worth tracking. The final percentage ties the whole system together. Entertainment, clothing, and vacations combined, the categories most people treat as rewards for working hard, are kept at 20% or below total take-home pay across all three. Not 20% each, 20% combined. This does not mean millionaires don't travel or enjoy themselves. It means they make deliberate choices about which experiences are worth spending on and which ones are being purchased to manage how they appear to other people. The Disney vacation that costs $10,000 for a family of 4, earning $100,000, is 10% of annual gross income spent in a single week. The saver investor millionaire takes the road trip instead. Not because they cannot afford Disney, but because they have long since stopped making financial decisions based on what the experience will look like to other people. And this is the insight that sits underneath all 6 of these categories. Every spending decision a saver investor millionaire makes is filtered through a single question that most people never think to ask. Is this purchase for me? Or is it for the version of myself I'm trying to convince other people exists? The car, the house, the vacation, the wardrobe. When you strip away the social performance layer from your spending, what remains is almost always significantly less expensive. And the gap between what you were spending and what you actually needed, invested consistently over time, is the entire story of how an ordinary income becomes an extraordinary net worth. 20% saved automatically, 25% on housing, 5% on transportation, 15% on food, 20% combined on everything else. These are not restrictions. They are the spending fingerprint of 23 million people who built real wealth on ordinary incomes, quietly, without performance, without a single extraordinary financial event. But here is the question worth sitting with. If the percentages are this clear, if the path is this well documented, why do so few people actually follow it? The answer has nothing to do with discipline or information. It has everything to do with one specific psychological trap that the financial industry has spent decades making worse. And that is exactly what the next video breaks down.